All right, so we are on YouTube and we are continuing on the Monday Book Club with our reading and discussion of Franz Kafka, The Trial. Today we are beginning chapter 8, which in my copy, which is, I think, vintage, is that who I have? Excuse me for fumbling around. This is a Schocken. I have the Schockenbuch version, and chapter 8 begins at page 166. And Joan, if you would please begin the reading.
The commercial traveler dismissal of the advocate. At long last, Kay had made up his mind to take his case out of the advocate's hands. He could not quite rid himself of doubts about the wisdom of this step, but his conviction of its necessity prevailed. To screw himself to the decision cost him a lot of energy. On the day when he resolved to visit the advocate, his work lagged behind. He had to stay very late in the office, and so he did not reach the advocate's door until well past 10 o'clock. Before actually ringing the bell, he thought it over once again. It might be better to dismiss the advocate by telephone or by letter. A personal interview was bound to prove painful. Still, he did not want to lose the advantage of a personal interview. Any other mode of dismissal would be accepted in silence or with a few formal words of acknowledgement. And unless he were to extract information from Lenny, he would never learn how the advocate had reacted to the dismissal and what consequences for him were likely to ensue according to the advocate's opinion, which was not without its importance. Face to face with the advocate, one could spring the dismissal on him as a surprise, and however guarded the man might be, Kay would be easily able to learn from his demeanor all that he wanted to know. It was even possible that he might perceive the wisdom of leaving the case in the advocate's hands after all, and might withdraw his ultimatum. Donna?
First ring at the advocate's door produced, as usual, no result. He could be a little quicker, thought Kay, but it was enough to be thankful for that no third party had come nosing in, as usually happened. And in the dressing gown, for instance, or some other interfering creature. Kay glanced at the farther door as he pressed the button a second time, but on this occasion both doors remained firmly shut. At last, a pair of eyes appeared at the grille in the advocate's door, but they were not Lenny's eyes. Someone shot back the bolt, still blocked the way, calling down the lobby, "It's him!" No flinging the door open. Kay had been pushing against the door, for he could already hear a key being hastily turned in the neighbouring lock. And when it suddenly opened, he was literally precipitated into the hall and caught a glimpse of Lenny, for whom the warning cry must have been intended, rushing down the lobby in her nightgown. He peered after her for a moment, and then turned to see who had opened the door. It was a dried-up little man with a long beard. He was holding a candle in one hand. "Are you employed here?" asked Kay. "No," said the man, "I don't belong to the house. I'm only a client. I've come here on business." "In your shirt sleeves?" asked Kay, indicating the man's unceremonious attire. "Oh, excuse me," said the man, peering at himself by the light of the candle, as if he had been unaware of his condition. "Is Lenny your mistress?" inquired Kay curtly. He was straddling his legs slightly, his hands, in which he was holding his hat, clasped behind his back. The mere possession of a thick greatcoat gave him a feeling of superiority over the meagre little fellow. "Oh God," said the other, raising one hand before his face in horrified repudiation. No, what are you thinking of?" "You look an honest man," said Kay, smiling, "but all the same, come along." He waved him on with his hat, urging him to go first. "What's your name?" Kay asked as they were proceeding. "Block, a commercial traveller," said the little man, turning round to introduce himself. But Kay would not suffer him to remain standing. "That's your real name," went on Kay. "Of course," came the answer. "Why should you doubt it?" "I thought you might have had some reason for concealing your name," said Kay. He was feeling at ease now, at ease as one is when speaking to an inferior in some foreign country, keeping one's own affairs to oneself and discussing with equanimity the other man's interests, which gain consequence for the attention one bestows on them, yet cannot be dismissed with. Trina. You okay?
Hey, yes, I was following you and just to the last sentence, but is
As
that your
they
real
came
name?
to-
Sorry.
As they
Well-
came to the advocate study, Kay halted.
I thought you had some reason to keep your name secret. Kay stopped at the door of the lawyer's office, opened it, and to the businessman who had obediently gone ahead, called, "Not so fast. Bring some light here." Kay thought Lenny might have hidden in here. He let the businessman search in every corner, but the room was empty. In front of the picture of the judge, Kay took hold of the businessman's braces to stop him moving on. "Do you know him?" he asked, pointing upwards with his finger. The businessman lifted the candle, blinked as he looked up, and said, "It's a judge." "An important judge?" asked Kay, and stood to the side and in front of the businessman so that he could observe what impression the picture had on him. The businessman looked up in admiration. "He's an important judge." "You don't have much insight," said Kay. "He is the lowest of the lowest examining judges." "I remember now," said the businessman as he lowered the candle. "That's what I've already been told." "Well, of course you have," called out Kay. "I'd forgotten all about it. Of course you would already have been told." "But why? Why?" asked the businessman as he moved forward towards the door, propelled by the hands of Kay. Outside in the corridor, Kay said, Tom, you take it."
But why must I? Asked the man, moving towards the door, for Kay was propelling him from behind. When they were out in the lobby, Kay said, "I suppose you know where Lenny's hiding." "Hiding?" said he. "No, she should be in the kitchen making soup for the advocate." "Why didn't you tell me that at first?" asked Kay. "I was going to take you there, but you called me back," answered the man, as if bewildered by these contradictory demands. "You fancy you're being very sly," said Kay. "Lead the way then." Kay had never been in the kitchen, and it was surprisingly large and well furnished. The cooking stove alone was 3 times the size of an ordinary stove. The rest of the fittings could not be seen in detail, since the sole light came from a small lamp hanging near the door. Lenny was standing by the stove in a white apron, as usual, emptying eggs into a pan that simmered on an alcohol flame. "Good evening, Joseph," she said, glancing over her shoulder. "Good evening," said Kay, waving the commercial traveller to a chair some distance away, on which the man obediently sat down. Then Kay went quite close up behind Lenny, leaned over her shoulder and asked, Who's this man?" Lenny put her disengaged arm round Kay, stirring the soup with the other, and pulled him forward. "He's a miserable creature," she said, "a poor commercial traveller called Block. Just look at him." They both glanced round. The commercial traveller was sitting in the chair Kay had indicated for him. Having blown out the candle, which was no longer needed, he was snuffing the wick with his fingers. "You were in your nightgown," said Kay, turning Lenny's head forcibly to the stove. She made no answer. "Is he your lover?" asked Kay. She reached for a soup bowl, but Kay imprisoned both her hands and said, "Give me an answer," she said. "Come into the study and I'll tell you all about it." "No," said Kay, "I want you to tell me here." She slipped her arm into his and tried to give him a kiss, but Kay fended her off, saying, "I don't want you to kiss me now." Joseph, said Lenny, gazing at him imploringly, and yet frankly, surely you're not jealous of her block. And she turned to the commercial traveller and said, Rudy, come to the rescue. You can see that I'm under suspicion. Put that candle down. Anne?
One might have thought that he had been paying no attention, but he knew at once what she meant. I can't think what you have to be jealous about either, he said with no great acumen. Nor can I really, replied Kay, regarding him with a smile. Lenny laughed outright and profited by Kay's momentary distraction to hook herself on his arm, whispering, leave him alone now. You can see the kind of creature he is. I've shown him a little kindness because he's one of the lawyer's best clients, but that was the only reason. What about yourself? Do you want to see the lawyer tonight? He's far from well today, all the same. If you like, I'll tell him you're here. But you're certainly going to spend the night with me. It's such a long time since you were here last. Even the lawyer has been asking after you. It won't do to not neglect your case. And I've got some information for you too, things I found out. But the first thing is to get your coat off. She helped him out of his coat, took his hat from him, ran into the hall to hang them up, and then ran back to keep an eye on the soup. Shall I announce you first or give him his soup first? Announce me first, said Kay. He felt irritated, for he had originally intended to discuss the whole case thoroughly with Lenny, especially the question of dismissing the lawyer. And the corn merchants being there spoiled the situation. But again, it struck him that his affairs were too important to allow of decisive interference by a petty corn merchant. And so he called back Lenny, who was already out in the lobby. No, let him have a soup first, he said. I'll strengthen him for his interview with me. And it'll strengthen him for his interview with me, and he'll need it. So you're one of the lawyer's clients too, said the corn merchant quietly from his corner, as if confirming a statement. His comment was but ill received. What's that got to do with you, said Kay. And Lenny put in, you be quiet. To Kay, Lenny said, well then, I'll take him his soup first. And she poured the soup into a bowl. Only there's a risk that he might go to sleep immediately. He always falls asleep after food. What I have to say to him will keep him awake all night, said Kay, who wanted to let it be known that his interview with the lawyer promised to be momentous. He wanted Lenny to question him about it, and only then would he ask her advice. But Lenny merely followed out to the letter.
Did Anne freeze?
Yeah.
Okay. So Orla, if you would please carry on.
As she passed him with the bowl of soup, she deliberately nudged him and whispered, I'll announce you the minute he's finished his soup, so that I can have you back as soon as possible. Get along, said Kay. Get along with you. Don't be so cross, she said, turning right round in the doorway, soup bowl and all. Kay stood gazing after her. Now it was definitely settled that he would dismiss the lawyer, and it was just as well that he should have no chance of discussing it beforehand with Lenny. The whole affair was rather beyond her scope, and she would certainly have tried to dissuade him. Possibly she might have even prevailed on him to put it off this time, and he would have continued to be a prey to doubts and fears until in the long run he carried out his resolve, since it was too imperative a resolve to be dropped. But the sooner it was carried out, the less he would suffer. Perhaps, after all, the corn merchant might be able to throw some light on the subject. Duncan.
Kay turned towards the man, who merely gave a start as if to jump to his feet. Keep your seat, said Kay, drawing up a chair beside him. You're an old client of the lawyer's, aren't you? Yes, said the tradesman, a very old client. How long has he been in charge of your affairs? Asked Kay. I don't know what affairs you mean, said the tradesman. In my business affairs, I'm a grain dealer. The lawyer has been my representative since the very beginning. That must be for the past 20 years. And in my particular case, which is probably what you're thinking of, he has been my lawyer almost from the beginning, which is more than 5 years ago. Yes, well over 5 years now, he confirmed, drawing out an old wallet. I have it all written down here. I can give you the exact dates if you like. It's difficult to keep them in one's head. My case probably goes back further than I said. It began just after my wife's death, certainly more than 5.5 years ago. Kay moved his chair closer to the man. So the lawyer has an ordinary practice as well? He asked. This alliance between court and jurisprudence seemed to him uncommonly reassuring. Of course, said the tradesman, adding in a whisper, they even say he's better at ordinary law than at the other kind. Then apparently he regretted having ventured so far, for he laid a hand on Kay's shoulder and said, Don't give me away, I implore you. Kay patted him soothingly on the thigh and said, No, I'm not an informer. He's vindictive, you see, said Block. Surely he wouldn't harm a faithful client like you, said Kay. Oh, yes, said Block, once he's roused. He makes no distinctions besides. I'm not really faithful to him. Oh, how's that? Asked Kay. Perhaps I oughtn't to tell you, said Block doubtfully. I think you can risk it, said Kay. Well, said Block, I'll tell you a certain amount, but in your turn you must tell me one of your secrets, so that we each have a hold over the other. You're very cautious, said Kay, but I'll entrust you with a secret that will allay all your suspicions. In what way, then, are you unfaithful to the lawyer? Well, said the tradesman, hesitating as if confessing something dishonorable, I have other lawyers as well as him. Well, there's nothing very dreadful, said Kay, somewhat disappointed. Well, it's supposed to be, said the tradesman, who had breathed freely since making his confession, but now gained a little confidence from Kay's rejoinder. It's not allowed. And least of all is it allowed to consult pettifogging lawyers when one is the client of an official lawyer. And that's exactly what I've been doing. I have 5 pettifogging lawyers besides him. And back to Joan.
5, cried Kay, amazed at the mere number. 5 advocates besides this one? The traveler nodded. I'm even trying out a 6th one. But what do you need so many for? Asked Kay. I need every one of them, said the traveler. Tell me why, will you? Asked Kay. With pleasure, said the traveler. To begin with, I don't want to lose my case, as you can well understand. And so I daren't ignore anything that might help me. If there's even the faintest hope of an advantage for myself, I daren't reject it. That's how I've spent every penny I possess on this case of mine. For instance, I've drawn all the money out of my business. My business offices once filled nearly a whole floor of the building, where now I need only a small back room and an assistant clerk. Of course, it's not only the withdrawal of my money that has brought the business down, but the withdrawal of my energies. When you're trying to do anything you can to help your case along, you haven't much energy to spare for other things. So you've been working on your own behalf as well, interrupted Kay. That's precisely what I wanted to ask you about. There's not much to tell you, said the traveler. I did try my hand at it in the beginning, but I soon had to give it up. It was too exhausting, and the results are disappointing. Merely attending the court to keep an eye on things proved too much for me, at least. It makes you feel limp even to sit about and wait your turn. But you know yourself what the air is like. How do you know that I was ever up there? Asked Kay. I happened to be in the lobby when you were passing through. What a coincidence, cried Kay, quite carried away and completely forgetting the ridiculous figure the traveler had cut in his estimation. So you saw me. You were in the lobby when I passed through. Yes, I did pass through the lobby once. It's not such a coincidence as all that, said the traveler. I'm up here nearly every day. I'm likely to be up there too, often enough after this, said Kay. Only I hardly expect to be received with such honor as on that occasion. Everyone stood up. I suppose they took me for a judge. Donna?
No, said the traveller, it was the attendant we stood up for. We knew you were an accused man. News of that kind spreads rapidly. So you knew that already, commented Kay. Then perhaps you thought me somewhat high and mighty. Did no one say anything? No, said the traveller. People got quite a different impression. But it's a lot of nonsense. What's a lot of nonsense? Asked Kay. Why do you insist on asking? Said the traveller irritably. Apparently you don't know the people there, and you might take it up wrongly. You must remember that in these courts, things are always coming up for discussion that are simply beyond reason. People are too tired and distracted to think, and so they take refuge in superstition. I'm as bad as anyone myself. Any one of the superstitions is that you're supposed to tell from a man's face, especially the line of his lips, how his case is going to turn out. Well, people declare that judging from the expression of your lips, you will be found guilty, and in the near future too. I tell you, it's a silly superstition, and in most cases completely at variance with fact. If you live among these people, it's difficult to escape the prevailing opinion. I can't imagine what a strong effect such superstition has. You spoke to a man up there, didn't you? And he hardly uttered a word in answer. There's many a reason for being bewildered up there. Well, one of the reasons why he couldn't bring out an answer was the shock he got from looking at your lips. He said afterwards that he saw on your lips the sign of his own condemnation. On my lips? Asked Kay, taking out a pocket mirror and studying them. I can't see anything peculiar about my lips. Do you? No, neither, said the traveller, not in the least. How superstitious these people are, cried Kay. I tell you so, said the traveller. They meet each other so frequently then, and exchange all these ideas, queried Kay. I've never had anything to do with them myself. As a rule, they don't meet much, said the traveller. It would be hardly possible there are so many of them. Besides, they have a few interests in common. Occasionally a group believes it has found a common interest, but it soon finds out it's a mistake. Combined action against the court is impossible. Each case is judged on its own merits. The court is very conscientious about that, and so common action is out of the question. An individual here and there may score a point in secret, but no one hears it until afterwards. No one knows how it has been done. So there's no real community. People drift in and out of the lobbies together, but there's not much conversation. Superstitious beliefs are an old tradition and simply hand themselves down. I saw all the people in the lobby, remarked Kay, and thought how pointless it was for them to be hanging about. It's not pointless at all, said the traveller. The only pointless thing is to try taking independent action. As I told you, I have 5 advocates besides this one. You might think, as I did once, that I could safely wash my hands of the case, but you would be wrong. I have to watch it more carefully than if I had only one advocate. Tina.
Maybe you don't understand that, do you? No, said Kay, and to slow the businessman down who had been speaking too fast, he laid his hand on the businessman's to reassure him. But I'd like just to ask you to speak a little more slowly. These are many very important things for me, and I can't follow exactly what you're saying. You're quite right to remind me of that, said the businessman. You're new to all this, a junior. Your trial is 6 months old, isn't it? Yes, I've heard about it. Such a new case. But I've already thought all these things through countless times. To me, they're the most obvious thing in the world. You must be glad your trial has already progressed so far, are you? Asked Kay. He did not wish to ask directly how the businessman's affairs stood, but received no clear answer anyway. Yes, I've been working at my trial for 5 years now, said the businessman as his head sank. That's no small achievement. Then he was silent for a while. Kay listened to hear whether Lenny was on her way back. On the one hand, he did not want her to come back too soon, as he still had many questions to ask and did not want her to find him in this intimate discussion with the businessman. But on the other hand, it irritated him that she stayed so long with the lawyer when Kay was there, much longer than she needed to give him his soup. I still remembered exactly, the businessman began again, and Kay immediately gave him his full attention. When my case was as old as yours is now, I only had this one lawyer at that time, but I wasn't very satisfied with him. Now I'll find out everything, thought Kay, nodding vigorously, as if he could thereby encourage the businessman to say everything worth knowing. My case, the businessman continued, did not move on at all. There were some hearings that took place, and I went to every one of them, collected materials, handed my business books to the court, which I later found was entirely unnecessary. I ran back and forth to the lawyer, and he submitted various documents to the court, too. Various documents? Asked Kay. Yes, that's right, said the businessman. That's very important for me, said Kay. In my case, he's still working on the first set of documents. He hasn't done anything. I see now that he's been neglecting me quite disgracefully. There can be lots of good reasons why the first documents still aren't ready, said the businessman. And anyway, it turned out later on that the ones he has submitted for me were entirely worthless. Tom.
I even had a look at one of them, thanks to the kindness of a court official. It was very learned, but it said nothing of any consequence. Crammed with Latin in the first place, which I don't understand, and then whole pages of general appeals to the court, then flattering references to particular officials who weren't actually named but were easy enough for anyone versed in these matters to recognise, then some self-praise of the advocate himself, in the course of which he addressed the court with a crawling humility, ending up with an analysis of various cases from ancient times that were supposed to resemble mine. I must say that this analysis, insofar as I could follow it, was very careful and thorough. You're not to think that I'm passing judgment on the advocate's work. That petition, after all, was only one of many, but at any rate, and this is what I'm coming to, I couldn't see that my case was making any progress. What kind of progress did you expect to see? Asked Kay. A good question, said the traveller with a smile. It's very rarely that progress in these cases is visible at all. But I didn't know that then. I'm a businessman, and I was much more of a businessman then than now. I wanted to see palpable results. The whole negotiation should be either on the upgrade, I thought, or on the downgrade, and coming to a finish. Instead of that, there were only ceremonial interviews, one after another, mostly of the same tenor, where I could reel off the responses like a litany. Several times a week, messengers came to my place of business, or to my house, or wherever I was to be found, and that, of course, was a nuisance. Today I'm much better off in that respect, for telephone calls bother me less. And besides all that, rumours about my case began to spread among my business friends, but especially among my relatives. so that I was being harassed on all sides without the slightest sign of any intention on the part of the court to bring my case up for judgment in the near future. So I went to the advocate and made my complaint. He treated me to a lengthy explanation but refused utterly to take action in my sense of the word, saying that nobody could influence the court to appoint a day for hearing a case, and that to urge anything of the kind in a petition, as I wanted him to do, was simply unheard of and would only ruin myself and him. I thought, what this advocate won't or can't do, another will and can. Anne? Might be gone.
She's still blocked.
Anne is
She's not
gone.
there.
Anne is not here. So
Yeah.
Okay.
will be the next reader.
I'm trying to remember where we were.
Yeah, so I read
So I went to the lawyer.
I
Look around for other lawyers, and I may as well tell you.
yeah.
So I went to the lawyer and made my complaint. He treated me to a lengthy explanation, but refused utterly to take action, in
Yeah.
my sense of the word, saying that nobody could influence the court to appoint a day for hearing a case, and that to urge anything of the kind in a petition, as I wanted him to do, was simply unheard of and would only ruin myself and him. I thought, what this lawyer won't or can't do, another will and can. So I looked around for other lawyers. I may as well tell you now that not one of them ever prayed the court to fix a day for the trial of my case, or managed to obtain such a trial. It is really an impossibility, with one qualification that I shall explain later. And the lawyer had not misled me there, although I found no cause for regretting having called in the other lawyers. I suppose Dr. Huld has told you plenty of things about the pettifogging lawyers. He has probably described them as contemptible creatures, and so they are, in a sense. All the same, in speaking of them and contrasting himself and his colleagues with them, he always makes a small mistake, which I may as well call your attention to in passing. He always refers to the lawyers of his own circle as the great lawyers, by way of contrast. Now that's untrue. Any man can call himself great, of course, if he pleases. But in this matter, the court tradition must decide. And according to the court tradition, which recognizes both small and great lawyers outside the hole and corner lawyers, our lawyer and his colleagues rank only among the small lawyers, while really great lawyers, whom I have merely heard of and never seen, stand as high above the small lawyers as these above the despised pettifogging lawyers. Complete.
Okay. The really great lawyers, ask Kay, who are they then? How does one get to them? Oh, so you've never heard of them, said Block. There's hardly an accused man who doesn't spend time dreaming of them after hearing about them. Don't give way to that temptation. I have no idea who the great lawyers are, and I don't believe they can be got at. I know of no single instance in which it could be definitely asserted that they had intervened. They do defend certain cases, but one cannot achieve that oneself. They only defend those whom they wish to defend, and they never take action, I should think, until the case is already beyond the province of the lower court. In fact, it's better to put them out of one's mind altogether, or else one finds interviews with ordinary lawyers so stale and stupid with their niggling counsels and proposals. I've experienced it myself, that one feels like throwing the whole thing up and taking to bed with one's face to the wall. And of course, that would be stupider still, for even in bed, one couldn't find or wouldn't find peace. So you didn't entertain the thought of going to the great lawyers, SK?
Hmm.
Not for long, said Block, smiling again. Unfortunately, one can never quite forget about them, especially during the night. But at that time, I was looking for immediate results, and so I went to the pettifogging lawyers. Okay. That maybe we should stop right there because there's going to be a change. Maybe we should talk a little bit about what we've read.
It sure beats an idea into the ground.
Hmm.
This is a very interesting
Yeah.
chapter.
Well, it's just the frustration of not really being able to do anything, no matter how
Yeah.
much money you spend. And
Mm. And the kind of layers of kind of things, just when you think this layer that you have reached, then suddenly you realize there's a whole other layer above that that you have to deal with, and you know, and the multiple advocates or lawyers that you have to engage with, and yeah, it's
fatiguing.
yeah,
It's
Yeah.
fatiguing because there's no resolution and
Right.
there's so many
No.
possibilities. You know,
Yeah.
going
Right.
back to the very first page that we read today, where he's simply trying to make up his mind to fire
Mm.
his lawyer,
Yeah.
Mm.
and he's trying to figure out how to do it. Should he do it in person? Should
Yeah.
he do it on the phone? Should he write a letter? And he goes back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah.
And you know, and when he finally decides that he's going to do it in person, there's no convincing reason why he made that choice. No convincing reason either to himself or to the reader.
Yeah.
But
Well,
he has nothing to base his decisions on.
There you
No.
go.
but
And then
isn't
it was so late at night when he eventually arrived at the law at the advocate's house. It was about 10 o'clock or something, yeah. And
but isn't that completely normal when you go for professional help?
Yeah.
For instance, what reminds me of reading, and what the conversation is on, like on the 25th of July, I needed a doctor urgently. And I phoned the out of hours service of my general practitioner. I got one doctor. I got a text through the day from my fifth doctor as they stepped me through different phases.
Mm.
I'm sure they have great understanding of medically. And at every stage, as I was between one and the other, I needed medication, but I needed a prescription. And the guy ahead hadn't seen me, so he couldn't. And the guy behind,
Yeah.
he couldn't. And I couldn't get medication.
Uh,
And I accepted that as totally normal. This is the way complex business is done. And now I will, on the other hand, say they did. When each of them saw me, and they saw me promptly, they all contributed something, but they moved it up the line. And
huh.
it's a similar process, and we don't get agitated by it. I might get a little agitated, but if the thing is working, and this is describing a legal system which feels like that.
Mhm.
Did you have to pay for 5 different doctors?
Uh, I suppose at the end of the day, yes.
So it's a bit of a money making. It's not like you show up to your GP and the GP goes, "Here's a prescription for antibiotics and ring me if you're feeling okay later."
Yeah. Well, there was one of those which is covered by my state insurance, but
At the other end, one of those hour-long sessions cost me a four-figured sum. Um, yeah, like yeah, it has not been cheap, but I'm not worried about that. I'm prepared in life for that to face that. That's what these guys are there to take your savings off you before you die. That's the doctor's mission.
Would it not have been simpler, Joe, to go to, say, the VHI clinic or one of those where
That
you'd
that
be
was,
seen?
yes, at the bank holiday weekend, that's where I did go. I went to the Beacon Clinic because they have all my records there.
Mm. Yeah,
Um,
that would cost you an arm and a leg. Going to
Yes,
the Beacon.
it does. Now, I believe I will manage to get that money back, but you want to be in the full of your health to tackle that.
Exactly.
But,
That's the point.
I'm just saying that this is not a complete work of fiction.
Not by any means at all. We all
I'm actually
experience this.
I'm actually getting a tire on my car. You know about this, Duncan. If I had a car, getting a tire on it might be equally complex nowadays.
Yeah, the good thing you actually mentioned that, because my working policy is when I find a mechanic that I can work with and that I trust, they're like finding gold,
Oh yeah,
you know? And I completely throw myself at their mercy once I've established that they're pretty reasonable.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and it works great. And I'm pretty much the same way with everything, where if I find someone that I feel is, basically honest, competent, don't overcharge, then I'm a loyal dog.
Yeah. And that's the way most people work. I found that when I worked as an accountant, that the majority of clients that crossed your way, you didn't want them. They were somebody else's ex-client for a reason. And but over the years, by doing a good job, you got to know the guys that you wanted to work with. And you end up with a glorious little practice that runs like smooth, and these guys pay you because they're concerned it's the first time the thing has worked. So but there you go. We're in our third profession. We've been in law, we've been in medicine, we're in the accountancy business. They're all the same.
They're all extremely complex systems where you have people who know the system more or less, advising people who really don't understand the system at all.
Yeah, that's the job I prefer. I still have one client. One client asked me not to retire, so I said I would keep him on as a hobby. And we now run a publishing business in London, this sort of thing. But we visit the financial guys once a year, and he just says, "So you do the talking," And I say to him, "What's going to happen?" I said, "Look, they want to make money out of this. The way to do it this time is X, Y, and Z. So when they say X, don't say yes, and say A, and then move on to Y and Z, and yeah. And it always comes true because these are all young financial guys and they've never been in a real wrestling match, before. And we walk out of there with tiny fees and the job done. And move on. So it's Cavafis stuff I've been living all my life without knowing it.
Hmm.
Do you think, and you'd probably appreciate this, Joe, that Kay in this particular instance is taking the piss a little bit.
He,
He's
he, yeah.
You know, he's saying to your man, really? 5 advocates? You're joking me, you know? And I don't think he's being serious.
Yeah, he is in many ways he's his own worst enemy when he opens his mouth. Like he hasn't learned to read to read the what should the shaman read the stones or whatever they're called.
The tea leaves. the
Read the
tea-
tea leaves, yeah.
But he can't read the tea leaves. Yes, that's but, anyway. I've wandered off there, guys. I took you on a trip there. Don't know where it has led us.
Well, I think
And my reaction listening to it with this sounds like the last month I have lived, you know.
Mhm.
Or am I just noticing it because we're reading this book? I don't know which it is.
Right. Well, I mean, I think in this particular chapter, what we've read so far is that Kafka is using Block,
Yeah,
who is a layperson who actually has a lot of experience with the law, and he's kind of telling Kafka how things are going to go.
yeah, yeah.
And I found it really, really interesting.
It's
Um,
the interesting is why Block trusts Kay. You know, Block gets nothing out of this. He's the first guy in the book that isn't maybe getting something out of. You know, like he's found a guy who's prepared to confide in him. But why should he? I mean, he doesn't know Kay from Adam.
I think he's looking for company.
Could be
He's
only
happy to have somebody there at 10 o'clock night that he can talk to.
human companionship. Yeah, because he's wandered
Yeah.
through.
And I think that Block is actually, in his own way, is actually trying to be helpful.
It would appear to.
You know, and he's got a knowledge which he cannot share with almost anybody except someone like Kay.
Yeah.
That's how I'm looking at it. Is Block is letting out this kind of flood of information because he remembers what Block was like at the beginning of the process.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure he wants to share it.
You
What
don't think
he's
he wants to
going
share?
through. People like to, throw their feelings against other people to get responses.
Yeah.
That could be the word feelings. That he needs to express his feelings, and that's what he's getting. That's good point, John. His feelings make him do this. Yeah. Could be.
Well, I think that Block, I mean, by Kay's reaction and asking Block if he's Lenny's lover, which is an automatic way of telling Block that Kay is completely lost, that he does not know what's going on at all, and he's suspicious of everybody and everything. That was one clue that Kay gave to Block, that, maybe this guy can use a little bit of help or advice, or at least I can show off what I have learned during my however many years and however many lawyers, and I've spent all my money doing this,
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's also there are also arguments coming to Kay of why Kay should not dismiss his advocate necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a beginner's action.
It's a beginner's action.
Maybe I'm getting sucked into the system. I'm quite prepared to play the system now at this book. if I was
It seems to
other,
indicate that no matter how much you know, or how far you go, or how much of yourself you invest in trying to move your case along, it's futile. There is absolutely no way of being
Yeah.
able to defend yourself.
Yeah, there's even two categories of lawyers,
Yeah.
real lawyers, and my
And-
book,
And not even know what you did. I mean, you don't even know what you're defending.
that's the thing. Yeah.
Well, I
It's
just
interesting.
know,
Some of them are called pettifogging lawyers, and
Yeah.
in my text they're called hedge lawyers.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I was thinking the hedge funds, but anyway, yeah. But Bloch was the name of Greta Bloch was a friend of Felix Bauer, and she kind of played a role in the relationship. She kind of was helping them to kind of the relationship broke down, and she kind of intervened, and I think she went to Prague to talk to Kafka and various other things, but she was a good friend of Phyllis Bauer, Greta Bloch. So he's using her name there. And some of the commentaries will say that what Kafka was, among other things, writing about was this kind of trial of the choice had to be make between marriage and between writing, and this was his trial as well. Whether he got caught up in marriage would destroy his writing, and so forth and so on. Yeah, but he's using her name there just as the commercial traveler or the or as the corn merchant, as somebody as some of the kind of things say. Yeah,
Yeah, that's.
yeah.
And there was a comment in last week's edition of the Times Literary Supplement on criticizing Kafka, his attitude to his partner
Oh yeah.
with regard to marriage. And it was just
Yeah.
about him, but some of
Yeah.
us being like Kafka in his attitude to his partner.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, in his attitude to marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's,
in reading the letters of Franz Kafka to Felice,
Yeah.
we actually have an exact replica of this first page here, where he's trying to decide how to fire his lawyer.
Yeah.
Is he going to do it in person? Is he going to do it on the phone? Is he going to do it in a letter? Is it, blah, blah, blah. And this is why, when he would write, if you get a chance, I'm sure there are letters to Felice on the internet. And to read a couple of those letters is like amazing. I mean, the man would say, things like, well, I love you, but, love is blah, blah, blah. And yeah, and no. And he would, he went into these infinite regressions with all these side trips when, yeah, this was the man. He had Kafka himself, perhaps except for his writing, had been totally caught up in the systems and the doubts
Yeah.
of what to do within a system at any particular time.
Yeah.
So this is his natural, or one of his natural styles of writing. As if he's not making it for this book alone. It's in the letters. Would that be?
It's in the letters, and it's probably in his job. It's probably in what he was trying to figure out, in particular cases and whatnot. I mean, I think anybody who's been caught. I was talking to a friend of mine, and she is a teacher. She's a teacher of special education students, and she has been preparing for the classes which start like tomorrow. And she said that the powers that be totally changed major parts of the system, and then expected all the teachers to learn them perfectly within this 10-day preparation period. And she said it was just crazy. And the interesting part was when she's telling me this, we went to see the Japanese movie Ikiru, which is one of the best movies in the world. As you know, my opinions are humble.
Yeah.
But it's an incredible movie, and it's about a man who works within a Japanese government system. And he's basically been avoiding all decisions in his life as he heads towards retirement. So, and the movie was perfect for expressing what she had been telling me before the movie. That she was going to have to go into the classroom. She was supposed to be put all these new systems in place, which she didn't have much control over at all. And so, probably for the next, who knows, 3 or 4 months, she's actually just going to be trying to catch up and figuring out what she can do to kind of survive. Meanwhile, working with her special education students. So
Yeah, the other thing is about the translations, that we're reading different translations and different things. And there's in the one I'm reading, there's a kind of introduction, but he mentions a few things. But one of the ones was Cynthia Ozick. She's the American kind of critic. I don't know whether she's still alive or not. She wrote an article, The Impossibility of Translating Kafka. The New Yorker, 11th of January, 1999. And I just Googled it, and it's actually, you can get it on Google. It's kind of hard reading itself, but it's interesting the way she goes into the whole kind of background of Kafka, being a Jew, a German, and according to her, like he used German so absolutely perfectly in his writing, without any slang or without anything. Yeah. So, but she said that's why. Well, that's one of the reasons why he's impossible to actually translate into English, and that's why we get so many varied kind of translations. Yeah. But it's interesting enough. I found it hard reading in one sense. There are interesting pieces in it, but it's the New Yorker of 1999. Cynthia Ozick.
Yeah, I'm familiar with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
the thing about it being a hard read,
yeah,
parts of Joyce is a very hard read.
Yeah.
When you little gems come out. They respond to your effort. I work hard at this. Say, when I work hard at this, I find I'm just bored by what I find. Like, I find this book immensely boring. I haven't been so bored for ages. I don't know what anyone else feels.
I did.
Oh, good, Joe.
I do.
Yeah.
After the first couple chapters.
I consulted Google this afternoon, I put in, is Kafka's The Trial any good?
I think that.
But Joe, you've been getting some good laughs from it. I can see this as
yeah, I am. But nothing to the effort I've had to put in. Whereas with Joyce, bad and tough as
Yeah.
But the thing is, we're reading Joyce in English. We're reading Kafka in translation.
Yeah.
And that's the point I was making. If you were reading,
it is the point, and I looked into that as well.
Yeah, but I don't find Kafka boring whatsoever. I think I think he's utterly fascinating the longer it goes on, and how he actually wrote this and continued to write it out, distilling it out of his mentality and out of his job and about the situation, and hence the whole thing has become a kind of a definition of many states of the situation in the world at any given time or anywhere, or in any organization or within an individual's life. And here's a man writing at night that distilled it all like this, you know. I think it's I find it
Good point.
kind of unbelievable that one individual could do this. I mean, in the sense
So
that, yeah.
thoroughly.
Mm.
Well, in a sense, the what I feel is tedious about it is necessary.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
You
But
know,
it's-
you know the way, like, you know, one of the tedious things is kind of, you know, we've all been there. You have to fill in a form, you know, and then if I might fill in the form, and then to say, no, you haven't filled in the form correctly,
Yeah.
and it goes on from there. Or you might be in a bank, or you might be in, and that's quadrupled now with the internet and filling in things on the on the computers. And yet this is all here in Kafka, this endless kind of thing. Just when you have arrived at something, no, there's another layer of something that you didn't know about, you know. But and he's doing this. I mean, I can see the writing on the page might be kind of, but he's how he persisted in adding these things in and just teasing it out and putting it down on the page, I find extraordinary. Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Well, I think that his job when
This,
he went to work every day,
Yeah,
that the material was actually like, here, Franz, write about this.
oh
yeah,
yeah,
Here, Franz, here's another example.
yeah.
mm,
You know, that it just flowed into him automatically. Have you read Good Soldier Schwerk?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, I think Good Soldier Schwerk is an excellent book to contrast
It
with like
is.
Trial.
Yeah,
Good Soldier Schwerk,
who
he's a
wrote it?
natural guy.
Who's that?
He's not trying to figure out the system at all.
no,
He's not
and
trying to win anything. He's just like straight ahead. It's all a kind of big weird joke to him.
yeah, and you're
It's-
trying to figure out whether he's actually very clever or whether he's a totally imbecile, you know, and he gets away with everything because of this kind of thing. But I can't think of the writer offhand, but he wrote some of that in pubs, and he wrote it. You know, he was in the armies, and he wrote it, and he read it out in pubs and everything. And it is a good contrast because it's the exact opposite of what Kafka was doing. You know, yeah, but they're
Interesting.
both from Prague, and
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
I think
started
you're
reading a biography of Kafka, and one thing is his relationship with his father
yeah,
was awful. The father was a looming figure who diminished Kafka, and then his mother did not support him against his father's dictates. And
mhm,
it- it- I think that was a major, it's almost like the trial is the father figure. He can't seem to please in any way to get any
yeah.
kind of friendship or endorsement.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And I can rattle off a number of cultures
Hmm.
which are just like that.
Mhm. He writes a letter to his father and spells out all the blame he has for his father.
Mm,
Um, I haven't finished reading that.
Hmm.
Yeah, and if you want a contrast, I think another interesting contrast is Thomas Mann,
mm,
because Thomas Mann was in a very he was born and raised in a very conservative, I can't remember exactly where he was, but he was, a mid-sized town, very conservative, very religious. And what happened to Thomas Mann was his mother had been raised in Brazil along the Amazon.
Hmm.
and she dressed in colorful dresses, and she, because she did it when she was a girl, and she was living in this town. Well, it automatically
Yeah.
made Thomas Mann different.
Yeah.
There was no way he was ever going to be a normal citizen in that town.
Yeah.
But his mother's personality and the way she acted just eliminated all that. And that's what put him in the position of observing people and emotions and how things worked, and he was able to write the things that he was right. And somehow Kafka, although at least maybe Tom, maybe you can tell me did Kafka have something unique in his background, or was it just his reaction to his father, or what do you think got him on this thing of paying attention and writing, saving himself by writing?
Yeah, well, he did say that he was born to just for literature, but the question is unanswerable because I think all the great writers don't have anything particularly outstanding in their background, either good or bad. Like there was literally probably hundreds or thousands of people like in Kafka's situation. There was thousands of people in Joyce's situation, in poverty and houses and everything. There was hundreds of thousands of people in Patrick Kavanagh's situation as a small farmer down in Monaghan. There was thousands of them. Nobody can explain why Kavanagh wrote so great poetry, why Joyce wrote his magnificent writing, or why Kafka wrote this. It's just, it's unexplainable, to me, yeah. But when you see it and when you read it, any of those people I mentioned, you're immediately in a different, you're dealing with ordinary situations, but you're in a different kind of level completely. And all they're using are words that we all know inside out. And yet they're able to use words in such a way to create this magnificent kind of world and kind of thing that we're absorbed by, that we love reading, that we sink into their imagination, their tremendous ability to use words, and that's it. And there's no explanation for it, I think, anyway.
Okay. I actually do not give quite as much credit to imagination. My tendency is to give credit to somehow these writers are able to see things in a different way.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
and I know that I'm wrong in many cases, but at least in my mind, I have an explanation for why James Joyce was James Joyce.
Mm-hmm.
Probably totally wrong, but for an intelligent, basically intelligent person to go through his history to be associated in the upper classes, the middle classes, and down in the dregs, without much choice, by the way. First his family had money and he went to Clongowes and all that sort of thing. And then as his father descended down the social ladder, he took the family with him. And there was only, out of all the children, there was only one writer, so to speak.
Yeah.
Stanislaus did, good pedestrian type writing.
Yeah.
But that it's a writer's ability to finally see Shakespeare, very unique background. He was in the other party in the political situation, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's just some writers that that there is no seeming explanation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to tell you that Cynthia Oznick is her
Yes.
name.
Rosie.
Is
Yeah.
97 and still alive, and
Oh.
wrote a book called Antiquities in 2021.
Oh. Yeah.
Oh,
So inspiring longevity in terms of writing.
Yeah. Yeah.
there you go. There you go. I'm planning on writing my first novel when I'm 95.
Gathering
Joe
material
will
in the
organize
meantime.
a publisher for you.
Huh.
Sorry, Anne, you were saying.
I was saying he's gathering material in the meantime.
That's right.
Did
That's-
Ozick write The Shawl? Do you know that? The short story, The Shawl? I think she wrote that. It's wonderful. She's quite a writer, if that's her. I think it is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
She wrote a lot of stuff on like essays on American writers and various things. Yeah.
Besides, this wasn't a
Yeah,
critique.
she's
It was a, yeah.
yeah.
Yep, she did write The Shawl.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I recommend it. It's a wonderful story. I should read it again, actually.
Anyway, to bring it back to today's reading, I think that Kafka is using block as a way to prepare us for later parts in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And block goes on for many, many pages. In fact, I think this is maybe someone could correct me. This is the first time that Kafka has allowed another person to hold forth for so long.
Yeah. It's
Everybody else has fairly short
yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Block it. It's a sustained conversation. It's a sustained presentation that Kafka's doing.
That's what I find. Here we are weeks and weeks later. He's depicting a second character.
Mm.
Like this book,
Yeah.
I'm sure he wouldn't touch it.
Yeah.
Like no character development. Lenny, perhaps a little bit of character development there, but it is utterly boring to me. And Joan and Katrina.
Well, I agree. What Tom is saying, and still find it tedious. I don't disregard the genius of it and the.
No, it's less. It's
I
not.
mean, it's really incredibly good. But
It's not
I still find
cyclic
it
to a
tedious.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's only one note in this book, and that's all about this darkness and and so on. But we're used to reading a writer who weaves all sorts of stuff together
Yeah.
and makes it worthwhile. It's not
Yeah.
worth this stuff out. You just get back to the same thing, the same note week after week after week, except for, as you say, block. It's like a breath of fresh air in the book.
Yeah, it makes me wonder what we're going to read next. I mean, I can't wait to finish this.
No, I will tell you the truth. I am very neutral about the whole thing. In the sense that, I can go either way. Because I know that, like it may end up that Tom and I have a separate meeting, at midnight every third Thursday of the month, where we talk about the rest
when you said Duncan either way, I was thinking, and we mentioned him, Kierkegaard, either or, and that's what it's fallen into, like either or. But it's kind of yeah.
Yeah, Kierkegaard was mentioned as the other one who conformed with this duty towards his partner towards married. And
either or, yeah.
yeah, guys, I know those names. Those names frighten me.
Yeah. Well, as I told you before, Kierkegaard, I can only read so many pages
Yeah.
of Kierkegaard at one time because I'm like it's like I'm breathing in helium, and I begin to rise up. And next thing
Yeah.
I know, I'm looking down at the earth far below me,
Yeah.
and I go, maybe I'm getting a little too high on this.
Actually, this is always suggested. It's been in my mind a while. When you were on vacation, Joan read a terrific commentary on this book compared to Alice in Wonderland.
Mm-hmm.
I think before we wind up, we should ask Joan to read that again. I don't know if
the Alice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Alice, yeah, I like it was like a searchlight shining on the whole process. It was wonderful.
Great,
Yeah.
great.
Maybe when we're finished.
We might finish up
Yeah.
just to lift the darkness a little.
All right. Well, Joan, should I ask you to send me a link to that essay, or should I wait with anticipation?
I don't know how to send you a link to that essay. It's in the introduction to the annotated Alice.
Annotated Alice.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll be reading Alice in Wonderland next.
Yes.
What you want to
Yeah.
read next? That would be fun.
I think that'd be fun.
Love to read Alice.
To read the essay on Kafka, or the whole annotated Alice.
No, Alice in Wonderland.
Read Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, the extract you read,
Yeah.
just ask Joan
Yeah.
to do it again if she'll dig it out.
It's Alice and Through the Looking Glass. They're both just so good.
Yeah. That might be a little, certainly would be very different from this. I mean, I realize that the comparison, but,
Yeah. Oh yeah, it'll be very different.
and I think that might be fun.
It would be
Okay.
be
Well, think
lively.
about it.
Yeah, a little lighter and, yeah.
Like I
And not
say, I'm
tedious.
very open. I had thought about either Dubliners or Portrait of an Artist, just because it's been a while since we've done some of the other works of Joyce. But we've got time to think about it. And also, let me remind you that although it's early, in 2 weeks it will be the first Monday in
Yeah.
September. So.
Mm.
All right. Well, I'm glad to be back.
Yeah. How did your
I
trip go to Carolina, Duncan? How
Say
did your
it
trip
again?
go?
Fortunately, it was uneventful for the most part.
Okay.
It was very quick. I think we drove about 2,500 miles in
Jeepers.
8 days.
Good luck.
And then every day we were in
Do it.
Carolina, we probably drove, I don't know, 150 or 200 miles
Oh, my God.
going back and forth. But, mission accomplished.
Mhm.
And I, fortunately, my mechanic was able to install a new brake system before I left. And, that's probably the biggest deal. I didn't realize how much my squeaky brakes were actually bothering me. But now that my brakes don't squeal and that's like, oh my God, this is heaven. Just to have completely
go.
reliable. Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Hi,
Okay.
everybody.
Goodbye, everyone.
I'm sorry my computer broke down, but
Yeah.
Well, we missed you for
And
that second
call me.
reading.